Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the special call board meeting for July the 21st, 2020 to order at 4:30, Ms. Crum. And I will entertain a motion to go into executive session for personnel. Is there any land or legal? Personnel only? Except for personnel.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Bollock. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Second by Dr. Jurgen. All those in favor? It's unanimous at 4:30. Session.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Dallas, second by Ms. Bobbitt. All those in favor? It's unanimous. At 4:45.
So if somebody starts virtual school, they decide they want to go back to class, can they do that?
After 9 weeks for elementary and middle, and after a semester for high school. That's the hard move. The easy move is going from classroom to virtual.
Mm-hmm.
But moving from virtual back to that classroom, that's a hard move for everybody involved.
Yeah, I know you know this, but you're gonna have to stick to your guns because it's gonna happen. I mean, especially if things go well in the first few weeks, people are gonna be everyone's gonna come back and you're gonna have to say no.
Yep.
I'm sure there's going to be a reason that pops up that we have to be able to.
Well, with students with disability, I mean, there may be some cases where, if it's a regular ed student just wants to come back and be with friends because but I think the answer's gotta be no.
All right.
I mean, I think the answer has to be no.
All right, Dr. Spence, I guess we'll go to other.
Okay, Ms. Preston. Mr. Preston here, well, we got some information today, or late yesterday, that she needs to share with us.
Okay, so we attached the budget discussion and diligent discussion.
My computer battery is dead.
I have a hard copy of anybody else.
Hard copy over. You test your city computer, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, do you have an extra?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure, thank you.
I think
You
Chris
want a
did
hard
this on
copy?
purpose.
So
Thanks.
I went yesterday to Chapman's office and picked this up and came back here late, like 4-ish, and plugged numbers in and thought, yeah, okay. I don't know what's going on here, but so today I've been going back and forth with him trying to verify my questions. So the first sheet you'll see is the digest numbers, and to the right you'll see in yellow all the ones I had questions about, because if you just look at this line by line and you take the first one, real property, that comes from the tax assessor, and that increased 3.88%, and that's kind of what he had given me a couple of weeks ago. Then you go down to the next one, and the personal property has decreased 8.33%, and if you look at each of these years, it's never been that low. So I sent a question, can you please explain what's going on with that? I mean, that's never been that low on this history. And he told me that Ron had answered that, the tax assessor. So I emailed him, he's supposed to get with me tomorrow. But if that ends up being too low, then that's just to our good. So I'm not worried about that. Then the motor vehicle. This is the old car tax, how they charge for old car tax. And if you notice again, 2015, 140 million, 2016, 100 million, 2017, 75 million, 2018, 56 million, 2019, 45 million, 2020, 45 million. Why didn't that decrease like it has been? He said it is what it is. I said, okay. Public utilities. Again, look at the increase in that. Has never been that high. I said, what's going on? The number of public utilities and the value of them has increased. It is correct. Okay. I'll take it. Timber. What happened? Went doubled from last year. Although if you look in the prior years, it has been high. He said they sold more timber. I said, okay. The most significant one that I'm waiting for him, he's going to rerun the numbers, is the exemptions. The last several years, our exemptions have increased so much that it had offset any increases in property values, and we came out with a really low increase or even a negative increase. This year, they went down 8.62%. If you go to the next page where I do the Senate Bill 46 analysis, that actually went up 8%. So something has caused it to go down 8%. So that's my main key concern. Okay, so if that is wrong, that will affect, our overall increase was a 5.48%. That will affect that number. So he's rerunning that, and he said he would get with me tomorrow. But if it ends up being right, we have a 5.48% increase in our tax. So if you go to the third page, that generates $3.1 million, a little over $3.1 million, and we had originally, the budget, the last budget we were looking at, we were using 1%, which was $705,900. One thing I did do is I did go back down on the collection rate, because when he talked to me yesterday, he said he's worried about collection rate for next year. So I said, okay, I'll go down 1% on that. That just means if he ends up collecting more, then we end up more in fund balance. So if you go to the next page, what does that look like for our budget? So if we come in at a 5.48% increase, go down to a 97% collection rate, leave this millage rate the same, we will end up in a budget surplus of $1.1 million.
How can that be?
I don't think we can count on that.
Well, I mean, that's because the increase in the,
I know, but it
and
is.
we made cuts. Now, I will say this, they're really, the only thing that, I was hesitant about taking out of the general fund was the PC refresh and putting it in these spots because of, what's going on with East Plus 3 and needing to make sure that we had that technology money there, but we can still try that for a year. But anyway, so last thing to look at is the rollback rate. The rollback rate is calculated at 15.982, and if we leave the millage rate at 16.157, we technically have to advertise that we are increasing taxes because of the rollback rate, which is a 1.9% increase. I was looking at the calendar today, and let's assume that tomorrow he gives me numbers and, maybe they change a little bit, maybe they don't. But if I can get the approval of the board to go ahead and do advertisements for millage rate after I confirm with him tomorrow, and budget, then we can get all the meetings and hearings done between now and the board meeting on August the 11th and get it adopted. I have to have the millage rate adopted by mid-August anyway, so. Anyway, thoughts? Questions?
Initially, I said something about looking at a rollback rate,
I don't
considering.
recommend that.
I know that was the recommendation. And even now, when it's looking like we could end up in a surplus, I don't think that that's how we're actually going to end up. So I agree,
You don't
moving.
think we're gonna end up in a surplus?
Well, I don't think we're gonna end up with that revenue increase.
You think he's gonna give you something different tomorrow?
Well, just seeing what the changes are is
Every number,
interesting.
all the other numbers I've asked him about were right, so he's just running it one more time to check it.
Right. Well, and we may have expenses that come up because of COVID. So,
Not with, we'll be fine. I budget conservatively
Right.
anyway. So there's no astronomical expenditure on COVID that we can't absorb within existing budgets in departments. I didn't reduce anybody's department, any department budgets at all. The school budgets, the only thing we took out was the PC refresh and some of Al's paint carpet money that can be come out of these spots, so.
I guess what I'm saying is, if we continue with the millage rate as is, instead of the rollback rate, I would feel more comfortable with that, just given the uncertainty. And then, we see where we end up with the year going into next year.
Yeah. But, and don't forget, we're trying to build our fund balance back up.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's the biggest
When
thing.
that hits 20, I'm okay.
So
'Cause
what's
I was ready
your
to raise the millage rate if we had
analysis
to.
for 486? You got any idea of how it could
See-
decrease on one page and increase on
No,
another?
this is what the increase on this page is all exemptions in the digest, and that's Senate Bill 46, that's homestead exemption. And I'm just wondering if that whole lawsuit didn't affect the exemption values.
In what way?
So let's say your home was incorrectly recorded at the wrong amount, and when it got fixed to the right amount,
You owed money,
then, yeah.
and they didn't. Well, that's what they had said from the get-go. That's why we started digging into the numbers in the first meeting, because that was brought up that, hey, you may be hurting some folks
Yeah.
instead of helping them.
So, I mean, I don't know, and maybe he'll have more answers for me tomorrow.
Some property, I had one of my properties double in value, tax this year. I looked and I'm like, how does that happen? And then the rest of them moved just a little.
It must have got reassessed.
It's a lot. It's like,
Yeah.
Is it by Glynn Academy?
no, not quite
Right near a
that
parking
much.
lot?
It's only on the mark, it's not on the parking lot.
But, you know,
Pay $50,000 for a
Good
$5,000
shot,
lot.
I couldn't resist, sorry.
It was a good shot.
Are there any more questions for Ms. Preston?
what I need is a consensus to put advertisements in the paper.
You got it with me, I'm thinking we're fine, I don't think it's really a vote, you just need a consensus more of a, everybody.
Based off
okay
of
with
this?
it.
What are you gonna do if the number change?
If it
Tomorrow.
changes, here's the deal, the last budget scenario we looked at, we were just using a 1% increase and everybody was okay with that budget, right?
Right.
So if tomorrow, if it goes down below 1 or into the negative, then Scott and I'll talk and, you know, we'll call a meeting or talk to you guys, but I'm comfortable with if it's only 1.
No, I'm comfortable, I just
question
meant
would
as
be,
far as
is
the numbers
board
changing.
comfortable based on the budget scenario that we were looking at with a 1% increase, which is a budget deficit about 1.3 million.
I guess my question is, can we vote to advertise, on an advertisement that we don't have? Because the advertisement will be different than this. Would we have to meet again to vote on
I mean, technically,
whatever you
no.
put in front of us?
Technically, I don't have to have your vote to put it in the paper. I just have to have your vote to adopt it. But
Okay.
I've always, in the past.
I got you,
gotten
that's
that.
fine, I was just making sure we're covered.
Yeah.
Because we'll be voting on basically what's in front of us, but it may change, it'd be something different.
The
Yes.
adoption comes after the vote.
Right, but we don't need that for the
That's a
advertising.
process that I've always done just because we had the time and I felt like, you know, I'd like for you guys to see what's
As long as you're
actually
comfortable with it,
in the
I'm fine.
paper. And I will update it and email it to everybody too.
You're not gonna advertise something that's gonna change on what we vote on.
You're not voting
Significant.
on it
We're not
until
voting on
August
it.
the 11th.
That's what I'm saying.
And I will definitely,
Let me finish. You're not gonna advertise something at a 4 or a 5%, and then the numbers change, and
No.
when we, right.
whatever
that's-
goes in the paper
Yeah,
has to be
Exactly.
approved. So I will know tomorrow if he tells me this is your final digest.
Right.
Then
So, yeah,
this is
you
what will
got-
get advertised. But if he tells me, okay, the exemptions were off, here's the new exemption, and I'll plug it in, and whatever it changes to, I will email everybody.
Yeah.
And if it's lower than 1%, you know, we can have another meeting to talk about it. But if it's still at the 1% that we've already presented, and if the board's comfortable with adopting that budget, then we just move forward, and I change this column to reflect what he gives me tomorrow,
advertise.
advertise.
Anyone against that? So, roll with it. I think we need to
And
vote.
no rollback rate. Right,
Right, no, no,
same
Agree.
rollback rate.
I agree.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Any discussion?
Thank you.
Got some good news. I want that,
So Dr. Whitehead and I are gonna basically give a COVID update, where we're at with school starting. And I sent the information that's on our website last week, I think on Friday, to everyone. If there's any questions based on what I sent, or any questions based on what's out there, we can certainly answer your questions at this point in time.
I want to talk about the masks one more time. Apparently, I'm not the majority, or close to it. I do believe that we need to enforce it, and I'm not saying have this whole huge disciplinary process when it comes to kids wearing a mask, but I think we need to push the issue strongly to get them to be accustomed to wearing it, because if it gets worse and we're still in school or in class, they're going to need that. And we do a lot of things that aren't directly related to education or math, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and that's something that we are probably going to as a country, and will continue, like Japan. So teaching them is not a bad idea. I'm not saying the whole disciplinary train, because I know that's going to be too difficult and it's too much, but pushing it as much as we can, high school, middle school, and then, because the person that you're protecting is not going to be the children, it's going to be the people who are very, very sick, or their grandparents or their parents that are sick, and those are the ones you're trying to protect by getting those children to wear the masks. And I know there's a big deal around the world with put on a mask or don't put on a mask, but you know, my degrees are in medicine, and I think we need to put on masks. So it would be my opinion that we push that a lot harder than just, well, you know, little Johnny doesn't want to put on his mask. And so it is my opinion that we need to push that a bit farther, if you would not mind.
I have a
So,
question. Are you saying push it, or are you saying make it mandatory?
make it mandatory, but part of it comes into the discipline side of it, to where you're going to have to discipline for not. And I don't want that to blow up to where it just takes over the system, and you keep building on it and then not dropping off something, and it'd be too much. But I believe to make it mandatory for the students and the staff while you're in a room like this.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not like this because we're 6 feet apart, but
I think the only problem I would have with mandatory, and I guess this could be looked at as well, but if you have a kid, this is what it always been in my mind, okay, well, we make it mandatory, and you have second graders, third graders come in that don't know they have asthma, or they don't know they have something, now all of a sudden they have this constrictive device on their face, and then you find out, and is that going to be a problem as far as forcing somebody to do something like that and causing a reaction? Does that put us in any kind of liability standpoint for that angle? That's just something that's kind of come across.
not when there's a pandemic, and I don't want to tie his hands
Right.
with it, but I want us to push for them, but I don't want to tie his hands. If you learn that somebody's an asthmatic and then they're around somebody with that issue, those are two respiratory issues that are going to go together and going to be a lot worse than putting on a mask. But that part's not, I get what you're saying, but I don't want to tie his hands and say, hey, make it mandatory, the third time you do it, you're out of school, you go into virtual or whatever.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying we need to present it in a way that says that it's mandatory that you wear your masks when you're out there in groups, and, you know, anyway, you get what I'm saying. Without tying your hands to say, yeah, that's it.
The wording that's in the procedures now is that we strongly recommend it. We've considered talking about modeling it, and so as a central office staff, when we went to the principals meeting last time, we modeled the wearing of masks for them, and we're going to ask our teachers and our school administrators to do the same thing. So that's where we're at now. As far as making it mandatory, I need to think about that a little more.
What's our ruling as far as the law is concerned? Can we?
Yes, we can.
It looks like they're letting individual districts make their own rules.
That's correct.
So the answer is yes. And the answer is yes, no mask. It's both.
Yes.
The state is supporting the local districts on their decisions. Isn't that what we read?
If you want to say it that way, you can. I look at it as the state is
Take
not
no
wanting to
change.
make the decision.
Yeah, but they're going to support
Yeah.
Look at it
the
that way.
local district's decision.
So, yeah, they're supporting us. You know, I get just as many, I get more emails about mandating masks. People don't want that to happen than I do emails of people wanting to wear masks. And that's one of the tough things about what we're deciding right now, so.
It would be hard to mandate and then not be able to follow through with discipline at the same time. Because if you mandate it, then that's in stone. This is what we require. And if you just, oh no, put it on, okay, I'll take it off, put it on, he just takes it right back off. And that'd be a constant, ongoing saga that I think modeling, I think kids learn from teachers, kids learn from other kids, and, you know, hey, I think the studies have shown if even one party within 6 feet has a mask on, you're down to a low risk. It would be very difficult to mandate something without some sort of consequences behind it. So I like the way it's worded now.
If you're gonna make a rule, one thing about being a principal, you've got to be ready to enforce it.
Right.
And that's gonna be the tough part. But I think if we model it, and strongly recommend, as of right now, on this date, it's still a month out from school starting, I think we still have some time, and we still have some research to read. But we're gonna get 30,000 masks from the state. We're gonna give our schools half of them. We're gonna give our bus drivers the other half. And if a kid, we're asking kids to get on buses because they can't socially distance to wear masks, and our bus drivers are gonna hand them a mask if they don't have one. So, and we'll have masks at schools available for the students also.
You know, I heard from a teacher that in their school, this is elementary, that they get to wear masks, not that they have to wear masks. So it's kind of framed somewhat in how you present it to the children.
That's a pretty good idea. Any other questions about our plans that are on the website? As the links on there, as we update them, of course, we'll put a date because all of our plans are dated, and you'll be able to see the last time we updated it. But the questions and the fact page, we're up to almost 100, aren't we? And we sit in here every other day and answer the questions as they come in. So.
As of now, where are we on temporary closures, enhanced mitigation, or?
Again, the state started off saying that they would provide us with guidance.
Right.
And now they're supporting us.
As far as,
right.
and how are we deciding those?
We're going to work with Dalton Davis, Dr. Davis, and Valerie talks to him just about every day.
Okay.
And if he tells us we're in red, we're going to be in red.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's going to dictate that.
Or as far as now, in your daily conversations with him, does it look like, what does it look like?
We're currently planning under enhanced mitigation. And he's, again, providing guidance, if not at least once a day, multiple times a day, on different scenarios that we have that are coming up. And, it's been, I think we're very fortunate in our county to have someone who's that accessible to us. I'm learning from other districts that's not necessarily the case. And so I'm very appreciative of that relationship that we have with the Board of Health to be able to do that. And again, he takes a scenario, we put it in front of him and say, what's your guidance on what we're presenting? And we've run the band camp ideas through him, all of those kind of situations. And right now, he has us under enhanced mitigation. He's not told us we should be shut down. So.
Now, he is providing guidance, not just supporting. So.
That's the local public health?
Yeah.
Our coastal health district director,
Good.
so yes.
Good.
But we're still looking at targeted closures if something happens as opposed to full.
We're
System
currently developing a rubric that's a decision matrix based off of what the state has sent out when they sent
Right.
that document out last week, because it was all over the place. And so we're trying to come up with some concrete, what happens if this, what happens if this.
Because I think that's like the burning question.
That's right.
now. Truly, like, with all this other stuff y'all done, that's the next key thing people are waiting on. Like, what if this happens?
We sent that to him yesterday. We sat in talked about it yesterday and sent it to him for feedback, and he hasn't provided the feedback as of yet. So when he sends it back to us, then we will be able to share it.
I don't want it by grade necessarily, but of the 2,600 students that have opted for, high school, middle school, elementary numbers? Like,
Looks like about 720, 750 high school students.
The majority are.
Yeah, and then the rest was kind of evenly spread over the other schools.
okay.
And it's interesting, even across each school setting, middle schools they're just right with each other as far as the numbers by grade level. It's pretty interesting
Yeah.
to see that.
Folks need to understand that it's not going to look like what it looked like in the spring. It's going to be far more organized, and we're going to expect students to do work and turn assignments in, and they will be graded. So people who do this need to understand that. Are there any other questions about our plan?
You brought band up, and I know I briefly talked to you about band. I had a parent call me about band, so I know band camp and everything else. Can you speak on that?
Dr. Whitehead and I were speaking the other day about band and the problems that could bring about. And so she called Dr. Davis, and he asked us, he said, when they're playing their horns, they need to be outside and they need to be spread out, what did he say, 30 feet apart? And when they're inside, they need to be wearing masks, and when they march, they could work with the drums and march and do the flags, but the people who are playing the horns need to hold them and not blow them. We don't play music inside either. They can play their drums, and if I mess up, that's... And then I talked with our band directors, I was both of their principals over the years, and so I talked with them on the phone, and they've made those adjustments that he asked. And they're also talking with, I believe it's the University of Colorado, they're working on ways that we can have fine arts in school during this time. And they're talking with them, so they're doing research on that, and hopefully we'll be able to have fine arts in our classrooms.
Well, I talked to Dr. Levy the past couple of weeks at pulmonologist at the hospital, and he called me, and I think I mentioned to someone, but he said there's a clean room or something where you can, I guess, adapt something with the air conditioning unit that circulates and purifies the air, John. I'm not sure, but I'd like to maybe get him to maybe talk to you too. Especially for like band rooms and high, I guess where you have horns or if you have stuff, that may be a way to possibly keep it down. From my understanding, if we're all sitting here and the central air conditioner is just constantly just circulating.
There's UV lights inside the vents.
UV lights was another one he had talked about as well. But the one he was talking about was like maybe $500 per room or something to set up a certain thing. So I may put him in touch.
That was part of that teacher's letter from Gwinnett. What part of her issue was the enhanced filtration, and even if it's in our high risk, populations, whether it be special needs children or whatever, can you do anything to upgrade the ventilation systems in those rooms? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the expense is or how long it would take, but I don't think about it.
When we spoke with Glynn Etheridge last week, someone asked about the ventilation systems, and he said that we do more than we're required to do with our air filters and with the way that our HVAC works. And so.
Can you speak to what GSHA decided about sports?
The Georgia High School Association, what they did is they simply moved back football, the start date for football, the first game, 2 weeks, which would end the state championship around Christmas, right before we got out for Christmas break. So, and then everyone else, they can play. That's where they're at right now. That may change, but that's where they're at right now.
So our plan is to go ahead, all middle school sports or fall sports.
We're just back there. We backed football at the middle school level. If I read what Steve wrote right, we're going to back that up and do the same things in middle school that we're doing in high school and play. What's really funny is some of these school systems in Atlanta that are starting, virtual learning and going the entire first semester that way, they're going to play football.
Well, and I don't have a band student, but and I understand. I guess I understand the band thing a little bit, but. And I know maybe we're not doing full contact in football right now, practice and stuff, but I can't think of any sport you swap more blood, sweat, and tears than football. And so you can't have band camp, but you can play football. And so it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that you penalize some kids during this whole thing.
Well, we're having band.
Well, I understand that we're talking about keeping them apart and wearing masks and can't blow your horn. You got to be 30 feet away to play, but you can go play football.
Right.
I mean.
I understand. My daughter's in the band, so
it just doesn't. It just
that
too.
Some of the interesting pieces of that with the new executive order, the governor has delegated sports to the associations that govern those. So GHSA gets to make those decisions about things they govern, and we have to make those decisions about the things they don't. So that's where some of the differences come in, I think.
That's right. The next thing is calendar. Because we're going to need some additional training with our teaching staff, some things, we were supposed to go to a new website at the end of the year, but we weren't able to do that because we were closed. And so we're going to have to bring in a new website. We're going to have to teach our teachers to plan differently as a result of what's happened. And so I'm asking that the board consider moving the start date of school back to August the 20th. In addition, I would also like to ask that we have a teacher work day on the election day, November the 3rd, because so many of our facilities are being used for the election. And I just think that election in particular is going to be, I don't think we need to have our children exposed to that.
And high traffic, I guess, people
Yeah,
coming in.
high
and out
traffic
here,
using
you
the
know,
schools.
so-
Just think about across the street from Brunswick High School, you know, that's an election site, so, and then our schools being used.
Moving it back, would it extend the year any further? And also, would it extend the semester into the next calendar year?
I'll get it. I don't propose to extend the year any further. We're not responsible for state, well, I don't think we're gonna be responsible for state testing this year because we've asked for a waiver there. And if we're not, I want you to think about the amount of time we spend on testing in our schools. It's far more than the days we're gonna be using up moving our school back. And so in essence, we'll have more time than we normally do if we don't make the days. As far as first and second semester, that's only really important at the high school level.
Right.
And I think if we get to November, if we can get to November having school, first of all, that's gonna be great. But if we get to November and our high school principals and high school teachers tell me, hey, can we take high school into 2 weeks into January? Certainly, we will be able to make that adjustment at both Brunswick High and Glen Academy.
So what would be the start date, August what?
August the 20th.
20th?
Yeah, that would be 7 school days extra. So that would give us, instead of 4 days to train, it would give us 11 days, which.
So
we've been
teachers are still
looking at-
coming back the same day, you're planning.
Teachers will still come back, and those
That's been a big
11
question,
days.
obviously.
Yeah, we would have 4 planning days, but this would give us 11 to give professional learning on the website, how we're gonna plan, and then there's a lot of technology that's gonna have to go into this for our teachers to be able to plan the way we're asking them. So, we're gonna plan as if we won't have school the next day.
And November 3rd, is everybody gonna train on that? So everybody's up to speed in case we have to go full virtual, is that the plan? Okay. And so you said we're not gonna have school on the 3rd of November?
Right, I would just rather have a teacher work day that day.
And so, since we're starting late, we're not gonna eat up any of these built-in hurricane days or anything we've done in the past. Like, you know, the past few times we've done the calendar, right, we've got days built into Thanksgiving and, so really we're just gonna lose however many days and not make them up.
7 and 8 days, yeah.
Because I think the other outlying variable is we don't know what's going to
I
happen.
know,
with
I'm not
hurricanes.
saying we should, I'm just making sure that if anybody asks, so we're starting on the 20th and everything after that's gonna be the same except November 3rd, is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Again, assuming I don't think we're gonna be having state tests this year. And the
Right.
time that it takes to take those state tests at each level is far more than 7 days.
Even if we do, they'll throw the results out. So, you know, I'm not, you know, that's what's gonna, I mean, they've done it on non-pandemic years, so.
The most important thing is we take care of our children.
Right now, it's
and get
important to
them
get
in the
back in and
environment
actually
they need to be
teach
in.
them, right, you know, we've got a lot of time to make up, and we don't need to spend it on taking tests.
And I like having those extra days for teacher education, especially about the website, because I think that was the biggest complaint I had during the initial shutdown in March was teachers really didn't know how to use. And we started with Zoom, then Zoom blew up, then we went to Google Classroom. Well, that had its own issues. And I think that if we can get everyone on the same page doing it and knowing how to operate those systems, hopefully that will make it a better experience for the teachers and then also internal students. And then for those distance learning, the parents being able to log on and being able to navigate websites and online classrooms and all that. So as much information as we can get to the teachers and having them feel as comfortable as possible in those 11 days, that's imperative to me.
It's not just learning how to do it, it's being consistent from school to school.
Right.
Because we need to be, a parent needs, if they have a kid at Glynn Middle and a kid at St. Simon's Elementary, it should look the same when they go in to find out where their kids' lessons are.
Are y'all planning to do, and this is all details we don't really need to know, but are y'all planning to do in-person, live, new teacher orientation like we always have with social distancing? Or are you gonna do it virtually, or what, like,
We talked about that this morning.
did you?
We talked about taking the new teachers the day before the other teachers come back to their school sites. And then the folks who would do the instruction for that day would be virtually piped into those sites. And then they could go from that point and then turn around and spend the 2 or 3 hours at their school sites with the school site new teacher orientation. So.
Speaking of orientation, when we do go back to school, will orientation be at the school physically, or would that be some sort of online?
Open house?
Open house,
Okay,
right.
at the younger, I think this morning we talked about this with pre-K and kindergarten, having a drive-by for those kids to go in and meet their teachers. I don't know about going in, but meeting their teachers. And then there would be a virtual tour of the school, tour of the classroom. But then at elementary, middle, and high school levels, we would have virtual open houses. So that each teacher would make a video of their class, and then we would have a tour of the school by some of the administrators so that everyone could see what's going on. Everything we're doing is trying to keep as few people in the school buildings as possible.
Which goes against totally everything we've been trying to strive for years and
I know.
years. Get people in.
You're right. You're exactly right. It's just throwing us for a flip here.
Different time.
Any other questions about the calendar? Not I would ask.
So assuming what we do, we won't need to vote on it now, should we just add it to the August, or should we go ahead and amend it? Because, yeah, we won't come back in August, we have to do it now.
I think we need to
So I guess
vote
we can
now.
just go ahead and take, I'll entertain a motion to amend the calendar as presented by Dr. Spence, start date of August 20th, and also with the teacher planning day for November 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Jurgen, second by Reverend Bobbitt. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? It's unanimous, passes 7-0.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
That's a great idea.
You will post that?
Yes,
All right, she's about to post that on the website.
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Anything else before we adjourn? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Reverend Bobbitt, Sam's with the second. All those in favor? It's unanimous at 5:22. Mr. Pearl?